Hey everyone, happy Wednesday and welcome to the Land of Brand Laboratory, or as we like to call it, the LOBoratory. This is your host and lead Mad Brand scientist, Holly Chantal. And if you've never joined us before, how this works is we're going to talk about one strategy for building your brand, and at the end we'll have a little bit of a discussion and questions. So if you have anything you'd like to add, feel free to write it in on the chat box on the right-hand side, and we'll look at them at the end. There is a little bit of a delay between me talking and you hearing, so there might be a little delay on the questions. So that's why if you send them early, it's a good thing. And basically what this is a weekly community call. We meet every Wednesday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, and we talk about different topics in branding and how to build your coaching business to six figures, to something that you can use to share your message with the world and to live the lifestyle that you love. So if you're just joining us, then welcome. Welcome to the community of Mad Brand Scientists. And if you are a regular, then thank you for being a part of this community. As I shared with you last week, we just broke the 2,000 mark, so we have 2,000 Mad Brand Scientists, which was very exciting. We're about 2 years old, so that is a ton of fun. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the presentation, and we can get started. As everyone's joining us, let me switch this to full screen. All right. So today we're talking about, are your blog posts commentable? How to get more interaction on your blog. And this was actually a suggested topic by one of our Mad Brand scientists who wanted to get more interaction on their blog. So just a reminder, you can always request topics if that suit your particular needs just by emailing me. So blogging can be really frustrating because they are usually pretty slow to get started. So you're getting into the groove of writing, you're sharing content that is really important to you and your target audience, and it's a lot of work to keep up with, to always create new content, to even remember to do sometimes, and really just to find the time to do it. So you're spending a lot of time writing. Sometimes, for some people, it can take multiple days to write a post. Some it takes a few minutes. Lucky them. But no matter what, it still takes time out of your day and time that you could be doing other tasks that are just as important in your business. Then you promote it. So even if you're writing consistently, you need to be promoting your content. So you need to be posting it on social media, sharing it in article databases, sending it out to your list via a newsletter. So you need to be promoting the content. And when you're doing that, you're going to start to see traffic. You'll check your analytics and you'll start to see that, hey, people are showing up, people are reading my content, yet I'm still not getting any interaction. So why is that? Why is it that when you're doing all of that work that you're still not getting interaction? And it's so frustrating because blogs, like I said, are really slow to get started. And actually in August we're going to be doing a mastermind group for those of you that are looking to launch your blog. So if you're not getting traffic yet and you don't actually have a consistent blog going, stay tuned for that because we're going to be doing a mastermind on marketing. And this is going to be a really big part of it. So even if you're doing all the right things, how do you get comments on your blog? So the good news is that no one wants to be first. So no one wants to be the first to raise their hand, the first to ask a question. So if you're not getting comments on your blog, it's actually harder to get comments on your blog. Once you do start getting that interaction, it's easier to get more because monkey see, monkey do. Someone sees interaction on your blog, they're going to be more likely to write because it's already a safer space. There's already other opinions being shared, other ideas being shared, and they are more likely to chime in. So let's talk about how do you get those first few comments? How do we get the ball rolling? Because you can't just comment on all your own stuff to kind of seed the pot. And unfortunately, that doesn't work. You could, on the other hand, have some friends post comments on your blog if you wanted to. I see a lot of people do that. asking some colleagues, or sometimes you might create a blogging circle with a few different colleagues that you all share the same niche or the same target market in different ways, and you comment on each other's blogs to kind of help seed the pot. But we're going to talk about other ways. So what are some things you could be doing with your content to make it more juicy and commentable? So the first thing is, we're going to talk about three things. The first thing is, don't be a know-it-all. So this one's especially difficult because the whole reason you're creating your blog is to establish yourself as an expert and an authority. So you would think that you want to share everything. You want to cover your topic very thoroughly. But if you're not leaving room for additions, then you're shutting down the conversation. So if you are talking about everything in regards to a topic, you're not really leaving it open to discussion. So you don't have to put all of that content in one post. This is another great way to create more blog content without having to come up with completely new ideas, is to share pieces. So write about one angle to your topic. So if you're talking about, for instance, this topic, writing blog posts, I could talk about everything having to do with writing a blog post, from choosing your topic, choosing your title, outlining, sharing stories, making it commentable, all those things. I could do that all in one post, and that would cover all the bases to writing a successful blog post. Or we can just choose one angle, which is getting comments. And by doing that, you're going to make it easier for you to write more content, easier for your readers to consume, and easier for people to discuss, because they can add relevant information based on the angle that you're taking. So you should ask for additional ideas. So in the blog post itself, leave some holes. Leave some obvious things that other people could add in the comments as ideas. So maybe you look at the less obvious, and at the end ask, what are your thoughts? Does anyone else have any additions? You'll see this in some of our posts. And to be an expert does not mean that you have to claim to know everything. Feel free to allow your community to fill in the blanks sometimes and to share with each other. And this is going to encourage interaction on your blog, as well as interaction with your community, with you and with each other. And that's another key to building a community, is that everyone's kind of talking to each other and sharing. So that's kind of one of the reasons at the end of this presentation, you guys have the opportunity to share questions. You have the opportunity to make additions. We're always welcoming other viewpoints and other ideas, because we know that we don't, our say is not the end all be all. We're happy to share our advice and our experiences, and your experiences are just as valuable. And by doing so, we're all going to help each other. So that's one way to make your blog more commentable, is to invite other viewpoints. The second one is to have an opinion, which kind of goes along with inviting other viewpoints, is really to share your viewpoint. Your brand should represent your message and your way of looking at the world. So share that in your blog. Don't feel like you have to always talk about both sides of a topic, or that you have to be, all-inclusive of everyone. If you have an opinion on something, share it. Express your opinion on topics, and in doing so, you're going to share your message. So your message is your unique way of looking at the world, why you do things the way you do, and why you do them in the first place. So by sharing that viewpoint, you may ruffle some feathers, but that isn't always a bad thing. You don't have to be arrogant about it or be a jerk or, intentionally offensive, though for some that is their brand and that is what they're going for, and that might work for them. For the majority of us, though, we don't like making people mad or hurting people's feelings. So you don't have to be arrogant or offensive. However, you should take a stand for something. If you don't agree with the way something is done, or if you have a really strong opinion on the way something should be done, share that. And you may get alternative viewpoints, because when you share your opinion, you're inviting people to share theirs. And so you're going to get people that are agreeing with you, you're going to get people that are disagreeing with you, and we'll talk about, what to do with negative comments in a little bit. But by taking a stand, you're going to build your brand, establish yourself as an authority, and invite other viewpoints and invite that interaction to start a discussion about something. Number 3 is to be relevant, which, is kind of like, duh. Obviously, you want to make sure your topics are of interest to your target market. Not always as obvious as you would think. So some of the topics you might be writing about are things that are interesting to you. So you might be reading other blog posts, other articles, and researching your niche area. And then what ends up happening is you're writing about those things, and those are of interest to you and your colleagues, not necessarily to your target market. They might not be at that level yet, or they may not be interested in that particular topic. So sometimes we have to write about topics that are actually interest of our colleagues instead of our target market. So to avoid this, go back to the basics. So back to things that your target market doesn't know and kind of sharing those pieces. And that will also help you attract more questions, because if you're talking over your target market's head, because chances are they're not where you are on that topic area, so they might not even understand totally what you're talking about. So they might assume, it might actually hurt their confidence. They feel dumb because they don't understand what you're talking about, or they haven't reached that level yet, so they don't think that you're relevant to them. And they're afraid to ask questions because they're not really sure what they don't know. They have that feeling of not knowing what they don't know, so they don't want to ask a question in case it's stupid. So go back to the basics. Try writing blog posts that are super simple, topics that are at a beginner level, or the beginner level for whatever your target market is, so the market that you're working with, and then see if you're getting more questions, see if you're getting more interaction, and go from there. So here are a couple other tricks for getting more comments on your blog. Obviously, asking for comments in the post itself. This is probably the most common one you hear, which is to put a call to action in your blog post. So at the end, say quite bluntly, do you have any questions or comments? Leave them in the comments below. Ask for comments on your newsletter. So if you have something that you in particular want to get interaction on, mention it in your newsletter. You could do it in the little blurb at the beginning of your newsletter. You could also do it in the blurb where you're advertising that blog post and sending them back to your website. You could write, to read the rest of this article and leave your comments or leave your additions, go to my blog. So putting call to actions in the content and in your newsletter is a way to do this. You can also ask if you can use comments from other channels on your blog. So for example, if you are promoting your blog post content on social media or article databases or other places that invite comments, you may be getting interaction on those channels because there's more eyeballs and more people. And you can ask them if they would mind if you share those comments on your blog. So I have a friend that does this with LinkedIn, where she gets comments on LinkedIn and she basically private messages the person and says, do you mind if I put this comment with your email address on my blog? And basically she just, when they say yes, she just copies and pastes it into the comment section on the blog, and that's instant interaction. So again, people don't want to be the first to raise their hand, but you may be getting comments on other channels, and now you're just adding them to your blog. And then the last one is to respond to comments. So interaction goes both ways. When people comment, they want to see that you're watching and that you're rewarding them by interacting and answering their questions or giving follow-up on the opinions that they shared, because they want to, just like you want to get positive feedback on what you're writing, they want positive feedback on what they're writing. So make sure that you're monitoring your comments and responding to them. So what if you get bad comments? So what if you're getting comments that are negative or contradictory to what you're saying? So first off, negative comments aren't always a bad thing. They might make you feel icky initially, but that does not necessarily mean that you're doing anything wrong or that you should feel less confident. When you get a negative comment, it is actually giving you another opportunity to establish your authority. As well as if someone's commenting negatively, you're getting noticed, you're ruffling feathers, you're inciting someone to interact with you, which is good. So it's going to allow you to establish your authority, reinforce your message, and it also means you're getting noticed. So how do you respond? First of all, graciousness goes a long way. So you don't want to get into a little, fight with the person or again, be offensive or close-minded about something. So what you do is you just acknowledge their viewpoint and you add to it. And this is important that you add to it. Don't use the word but. So don't say, yes, that's a great point, but da 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 da. Because when you say but, you're basically saying that that's a good viewpoint is not true, and the rest of what you have is the case. So what you might do is say, thank you for your viewpoint. Many people may agree that da 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 da, which is their point they made, and I might say this, or and people may also find this. So you're basically just acknowledging their viewpoint and giving your take on it or showing how it still ties into what you're talking about. And by doing that, you are seen as gracious. You are inviting interaction so people know that they can share their viewpoints and they're not going to be put down or belittled. And you're establishing your authority because you are reinforcing your viewpoint and the way you see things. Sometimes people might say something because they're actually not as aware or as well versed as you are. So they may have a viewpoint that is in your experience not the case, and that's fine. Because by sharing that, you may help teach them something, and then the people that are observing and watching, reading your article as well as the comments and everything, they're learning. This is an opportunity to teach. It's a teaching moment, if you will. So I hope that that's helpful to help you find ways to incorporate getting more comments on your blog, how to handle negativity, and also how to ask for those comments. So while I am waiting for your comments and questions, if you have any, I do see we have one from Lynn, which we'll get to in a moment. So if you have any things that you would like to add for how to get more interaction on your blog, or if you have any questions, then please put them in the chat on the right-hand side. As I said, there's a little bit of a delay, so you guys are running a tad behind me, so I'm just filling in a little time as you guys catch up. And while I'm doing that, we will talk about what's going on next week. So next week, 12 o'clock Eastern Time, we will be back, and we're going to be talking about Thanks Canada, why double opt-in is a good thing. So I'm sure that all of you are aware that Canada made a law that your list has to be double opted in, or you could get sued for spam. And so we're going to talk about why that's actually a good thing and why you should not be freaking out about it. So a lot of people are scrambling to get double opt-in on their list. And they're kind of freaked out about it and worried about what this is going to do for their list building efforts. So we're going to talk about why it's not going to ruin your list building efforts and why this is a fantastic thing that you should have been doing all along. So hopefully you'll join us for that. And I'm going to go ahead and move over to the questions. Lynn says, suggestions for writing to multiple levels of an audience. I don't want to bore the upper levels while being basic with the beginners. It's a great point. And I think I need to qualify that when I'm saying going back to the basics, it's going to depend on your target market. So what might be basic for your area of that target market might not be basic for those that are on a lower level. So for example, we work with a lot of coaches, and we work with coaches that are on two different levels. We work with coaches that are brand spanking new, haven't even graduated coaching school yet, and then we also work with coaches that are established, have been coaching for decades, and are looking to rebrand. So those are two very different audiences. So what is going to be basic to the people that are established is not going to be basic for the people that are brand spanking new. So what I would do is the blog post I'm writing would be geared toward one audience or the other. It does not have to be, well, let me back up a little bit. It's going to be geared toward one audience or the other. For many of you, if you are starting out, you should only have one audience, so one level that you're writing to, so it won't matter. As your business grows, and as you start targeting multiple levels, so maybe now you're ready to start working with the advanced as well as the beginners, your blog posts should still appeal to one or the other. They don't have to coat your entire database, because the people that are going to find that topic relevant are going to be the ones that are going to click on it and read it and comment. So don't be too concerned about making sure that every post expands your entire audience. You want to make sure that they're targeted toward the specific levels of where your audience is at. So I hope that is a helpful answer. If you have a follow-up, Lynn, feel free to post it. And Kim says, when you put up a blog post, how many places do you post it in? Do you use anything to automate the process? And if so, what do you use? Good question. So when you put up a blog post, how many places do you post it to? I actually have a team that does this for me. So I post my blog post for the week, and it goes to 10 different article databases, as well as 50 LinkedIn groups. And we post it on Facebook and Twitter, and I think that's it. So it goes to a lot of different places, and all those places link back to the blog post itself. So like I said, we're getting a lot of interaction on LinkedIn, and while I haven't started doing this yet and I'm considering doing it, we get a lot of interaction on LinkedIn, and we can be asking those people if we can put them on the actual blog so that people are actually seeing those comments. So if you have a post on 50 LinkedIn groups and only 5 of those groups are getting comments, that's still at least 5 comments that could be on the blog itself. So post it really anywhere you can, as long as it's relevant. So when we're posting it to LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups, we're making sure that that post in particular is relevant to the group that we're posting it to. So I use a team to automate this process, so it's not completely automated. However, there are tools out there that can help you semi-automate. One of them we're going to be talking about in a couple of weeks. In a couple of weeks, one of the topics is a pretty sweet tool to automate your business and life. And it's called If This Then That. I'm going to type that into If This Then That. IFTTT.com, I think. If this, then that. So if you want to check that out on your own, go for it. We're going to be looking at that in depth in a couple of weeks, but it's basically an automation tool. You could also use Hootsuite to connect to your different social media platforms and blast the post out that way. But what I find is I like to use a team because that way they can make strategic choices on where they're posting, which blog posts are posted to which mediums, and when you automate too much, sometimes you end up almost spamming people. And we want to make sure that it still has that really high touch feel, and that we're sending relevant information to the right people. So I hope that is helpful, Kim. And I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this call on making your blog post more commentable. If you have any questions or topics that you would like to see, email holly@thelandofbrand.com, and we'll see if we can get them on the August schedule. All of the topics for July are suggestions from you guys, which was very exciting. So I love incorporating your feedback and your requests. And if I don't have the answer to something, I can usually find someone that does and bring them on to interview. So if you have questions about building your brand online, getting your message out there, then please send that to holly@thelandofbrand.com. And that is all. So next week we'll be talking about thanking Canada because they're making everyone pay attention to double opt-in, which is a very, very good thing. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.